Hey everyone, welcome to Mary Goes Global and happy Black History Month. You see I have my hoodie, Young, Black, and Educated. Anyways, I want to say sorry for the hiatus. I have been really busy, partly because, I came back from Texas and, we went on a trip to Louisiana, still editing that vlog. But also I just went on a trip to Colombia, which is what I wanted to talk about in this video. I just got back on Sunday, so I'm trying to just edit those videos. So what I wanted to do in this video was post something and really post something that might be helpful for any US travelers that are looking to go abroad and come back and make sure that they can come back, because there was a lot of things to just be aware of, and also just through your trip to make sure that you have an enjoyable experience. So I'm going to speak to Colombia in this video, and for those of you who are interested in Colombia, please listen up. I hope that the resources and links that I put in this video will be helpful to you, and yeah. Alrighty guys, so the first thing that I want to talk about is just, how long I was in Colombia, what my flights look like. So from February 5th to February 12th, Saturday to Saturday, I was in Colombia, and also partly in the US because that was my travel days. And I went with one friend, so it was just two of us on this trip. And, we flew from Chicago, Fort Lauderdale to Colombia, Fort Lauderdale to Chicago. And since I live in Milwaukee, just had to drive like an hour and a half-ish. But anyway, those were our flights, and pretty much flights were pretty smooth, nothing much to deal with there. But there was no delays, thankfully, despite, snowstorm warnings and things. But when it comes to getting into Colombia, there are some entry requirements, and there might be for other countries as well. But for Colombia, you do have to fill out a form, and of course, you have to be vaccinated, and you need your passport, of course, to travel internationally. But you do have to be vaccinated to go to Colombia. So vaccination card, passport, and an immigration form, which we were able to fill out at the airport. Lines are crazy, so I highly recommend, if you are doing an international flight, at least 3 hours, but really and truly, we were there 4 hours for our last flight, and there were people who I believe barely made it to our flight. So just saying, be early. So anyways, once we got to Colombia, we also had to go through an interview thing, and I think that's probably everywhere. Like, you have to go through customs, and they kind of ask you, what's the purpose of your trip? But I will say, and this will segue into another section I'll talk about later, is just that interview was also done in Spanish. And my friend who did not know Spanish, who was with me and only knew English, said it was hard for her to even talk to them, and she just had to motion and show, oh yeah, we're staying at this hotel, etc., just to be able to get through that interview. So again, knowing the language of the country you're going to can help, at least the basics. But yeah, so that was Colombia. Once we got in the country, however, it was pretty chill. As for transportation, while we were there, so from the airport, we just took an Uber. There are taxis available, and that's pretty much, the main method of transportation we used when it came to Cartagena, because again, it's not the city, so there's not other methods of transportation. Whereas in Medellin, we had, of course, Ubers and taxi, but we also could take the subway, and we took the metro cable, just more for touristic purposes, but they were available. And we also took a bus to go to Guatapé, which is right outside of Medellin. But yeah, so those were kind of our transportation throughout the trip. And I will say again, with almost all of those, except for the tour, which we took and we got to go on a bus, Spanish. Even our Uber drivers or taxi drivers will call and they're speaking in Spanish. They don't really know English. So the language, I'm going to keep pushing it and just say there's a lot of things that Spanish was useful for, and thankfully I know a good amount of Spanish. Now, going on from that to our hotel. So once we got to our hotel, we stayed at the Hilton in Cartagena, and we also stayed at a 4-point Sheraton when we got to Medellin. And of course, these brands we recognize here in the US, and that may be why they spoke English. I'm hoping that most hotels would have someone that speaks English there. But again, if not, be prepared to use your Spanish. So that would be my or have Google Translate. So that would be my recommendation there. Now, as for any differences to be aware of for what you bring, no need for a converter if you are coming from the US. The plugs are the same. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, the clothing that people wear, generally the same. It is a warmer climate, but I will say Medellin got a little chilly, so having a jacket was very needed. I could have packed some long sleeve shirts or this hoodie or something. But yeah, it gets a little chilly there, but on Cartagena it was blistering. Like my face is still peeling from that sun. Sunscreen, bug spray, got eaten alive by mosquitoes. But yeah, that's some things in that regard to bring. But generally, they drive on the same side of the road if you are, in a car. So, but they also drive weaving in and out of roads. It's different. So that's what I would say there. But in general, you shouldn't be too concerned coming from the US. Now, and of course, street signs, I mean, they're in Spanish, but the lettering system when it comes to cities and stuff is in, it's the same writing system as English, so there you go. But next I want to talk about safety. So as for safety, I never felt scared. I never was too worried, even at, late at night if we went out or anything like that. Our hotel was obviously very secure. We stayed at a Hilton. It was very, there was a gate to get into it. You had to show that you were a taxi or you dropping someone off in there. And our hotel also had access to the beach. And so we could go back when we went back from the beach to our hotel, had to show our card and everything to prove we stayed there, etc. So I will say very safe in that regard. And in Medellin, even nicer, even safer. Our hotel was connected to a mall, which was even more convenient. Highly recommend those hotels. I loved them. And they were just not too far from everything. And just, again, like clean, really nice. The service, exceptional, way better than the US, in my opinion. Now, the next thing, and really, I've talked about it, I really am going to push the language level thing since this is a channel where I talk about languages. I did not expect it to be as much of a need to speak Spanish as it was. I mean, when I tell you, it was situation after situation that we just had to talk in Spanish. My friend, her poor self, was just struggling because really and truly she did not know any Spanish, and there wasn't that many people who knew enough to get through when it came to shopping, when it came to the hotel thankfully was good, but outside of like the reception, if we were getting something to eat, if we needed something done with our room, had to speak in Spanish. And that goes for when we're at the beach and we want to buy something, when we're trying to rent one of those umbrellas and stuff like that, like all of that in Spanish. So that's kind of my deal there. Or if the driver needs better directions or is trying to figure out where we're going, again, in Spanish. So those are going to be my recommendations because, again, your language level, at least learn the basics of Spanish if you're going to go to Colombia, because in my opinion, even in Medellin, it did not get that much better. It was still very much having to use Spanish everywhere. So there you go. Now, my next and final point would be, or that I want to talk about today, is going back to the US. So to get back in the US, you need to have a negative COVID test, proof of vaccination, if you need that, and then your passport, of course. And then you also have to, specific to Colombia, fill out a return kind of those my immigration forms saying you're leaving, where you're going to, and the US also has an attestation form saying where you'll be staying in the US, etc. So those were a lot of documents. And another thing with that COVID test is that it has to be done 24 hours before your flight. So if you didn't buy a COVID test that's approved and that has one that has telehealth connected with it, which we didn't. We brought COVID tests, but they did not have telehealth connected with it. So we ended up having to just find an office to go do it. And we also wanted to be 100% sure it was okay. So you need to make sure you get that scheduled, get that done, find a place to do it. For Colombia, I will put a link for a place if you are going to travel there. But I will say, it wasn't that stressful because I have a friend in Colombia who was kind of telling me places and stuff, but If you don't have that and you're on your own, really talk to the hotel and talk to maybe other travelers about what they did to get that done. So I think here is where I will end this video. It's already getting long, but I wanted to give a really thorough explanation of what to expect in Colombia, how to get back to the US and the things you'll need. And I'll even put it in the description in terms of, you know, what you need to go, what you need to come back, and just summarize some of those points that I mentioned in this video. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this informative video to just give you some background of whether you want to go through all of this to travel, or if, you know, this video has helped you plan because you already have travel plans for the future. So hope this helps, and stay tuned for my vlogs coming up and these next videos. And I will also be doing a video talking about Korean and how I learned, because so many people are going to my practice Korean video. And yeah, so alrighty guys, thank you for watching and stay tuned.